Dr. Chris. It is our honor and a privilege to be here sharing the platform with you. And thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of this, the Voices of Richa Cares, where we showcase and, voice the opinionated approach towards the different campaigns. And just, before we begin, we have come across so much of your research and your articles and your literature and your work in this particular space. So, you have had such an interesting journey across science, innovation, and environmental research. Was there a particular moment, or for that matter, an experience in your life that first sparked your interest in this specific field? Over to you.
When it comes to polymers and plastics, it was definitely Norman Billingham. He's a famous professor in the UK. He was editor of Polymer Degradation and Stabilization for Elsevier. So he is the one who convinced me to study polymer science. I was studying chemistry and he sat me down and said, this is why you have to work with plastics. And he was one of my mentors. He's an incredibly smart guy who's very good at explaining complicated things in a simple way, so even stupid students can understand it. And so that's part of where I got my interest. That's where I got my interest in plastics, but also that insight that you can explain complex topics with analogies and in ways which are interesting, which most scientists don't really do. They make it so boring that no one wants to listen. When it comes to the environmental side, that was sparked by my daughters. They came home through the door. They'd just been to elementary school. And they said, Dad, our teachers told us something that wasn't true. And they were told that plastics don't degrade. And that is what people believe. That's what their teachers believe. But there are thousands of studies on plastic degradation and biodegradation. There are whole journals on it and books on it. So that's kind of one of those areas where it's very easy to spread information via social media, even when science knows perfectly well. We got decades of studies saying that that's not the case. So that's what sparked my interest in this topic, to realize that our teachers don't know they don't know the science, and how should they? And our children are being taught nonsense. They're going to grow up to vote for things which are nonsense if their heads are full of things that are not correct.
Incorrect information.
So that's kind of the driving force. If you do a personality profile on me, I care about fairness. And as a lawyer, you probably do too, right?
Absolutely.
I don't care for plastic or against plastic. I care what is true and what is not true based on evidence. And that's the place we should start, because if we start with evidence, we usually come out with better decisions. So my role as a scientist is to provide people with credible evidence that you can check, that's been verified by other scientists, to make wiser choices.
Beautiful. Thank you for being so vocal about your perception and your perspective towards the plastic. So what we understand, you have spent years reviewing thousands of scientific studies. So today's conversation, in today's time, the conversations around the plastics and sustainability are just omnipresent everywhere. From your experience, what do you think people often misunderstand or oversimplify about this particular issue?
To begin, but there are a few main myths. One is the idea that we're drowning in plastic, and it certainly is everywhere. Everything's everywhere. Concrete's everywhere, paper's everywhere, water is everywhere, rocks are everywhere. So plastic is everywhere too. But if you add up all of the amount of plastic compared to the other materials, it's less than 1% of the material we use, by weight or by volume. So less than 1% of the material we use and the waste we generate is plastic. So it definitely is a part of the overall picture. And what worries me as a scientist and problem solver is that we're talking 100% about less than 1% of our problem, right? We can't spend all day talking about less than 1% of the total picture and expect to really make a difference. We have to look at everything. If we really want to improve the world, we can't ignore 99% of our waste and our materials and just talk about plastic all day long. That would be silly. And that's kind of a guaranteed path to failure. It would be like, imagine I came home and wanted to tidy my house, and I thought, well, I'll just clean the knives and forks around a little bit. I'll clean the cutlery drawer and expect the rest of the house to clean itself. That would be insane. But that's the same kind of insanity we're applying to plastics. I'm not saying plastics don't have a role, they do, but ignoring 99% is unwise.
True, very true. And we all observe this in our everyday to-day life. And that is how we are here to teach our next generation as well.
Yes.
Very well said, Dr. Chris. One thing, that really stands out about your work which I have observed and whatever I have read about, is your emphasis on the scientific honesty and the evidence-based thinking.
Yes.
So, in a world which is driven by headlines and the social media, and how important it is to separate the facts from the fear, as you mentioned, myth also.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It comes down to truth, doesn't it? If you start off with things which are true, you can make good decisions. But unfortunately, what's true and what's exciting are the opposite. So I think Mark Twain said that the lie's halfway around the world before the truth can get its shoes on. And that's the way it works. So the more exciting something is, like let's say you say that we eat a credit card of plastic a week. It's not true, but everyone believes it and everyone's heard it because it sounds exciting. And then if you come later on and say, that's not true, nobody cares, right? It's not exciting. It doesn't catch up with a lie. So lies go viral. In fact, they studied that. A lie is 70% more likely to be retweeted than the truth. And so if you look at the statistics of that mathematically, if you have 70% plus 70% when it gets retweeted and 70% again, that means that a lie is infinitely more likely to go viral than the truth. And that's what I encounter. I see a lot of people becoming rich telling lies because spreading lies is very exciting and you get a lot of clicks. If you want to work for free like I do, I've read 6,000 studies unpaid, not a single penny of money, and then tell the truth, that's a way to get poor, not to get rich. So that's the problem, that the money side of things is lined up to help people who spread misinformation, and it's not there to support people who want to share facts.
Absolutely right. This is such a, a different mindset with which you speak, with which you carry out your work, and how it is benefiting the society as well. In fact, globally, everybody is being, everybody should read, everybody should follow what kind of a understanding, what kind of a study which you are building up together, or people like you at this stature and this cadre. It would be amazing to have, people hear about this and maybe implement also.
Yes. In fact, I find that lawyers are some of the best people to talk to about this because lawyers are used to dealing with evidence. I'm an expert witness in class action cases. I know what good evidence looks like, and lawyers recognize good evidence when they see it, even if it's from the opposing side. Lawyers have looked at my work, they've checked it, and so have scientists. In fact, a team of I wrote the last book. I read all those studies, and these books are for free, right? I'm not making a penny. I'm not selling these books, let's say. I'm giving them away. They are available on Amazon for people who want a paper copy, but you can download it for free. So I sent it to professors all around the world and said, here, please check this. And they all endorsed it. So, and lawyers as well. So it's been checked by professors all around the world, and it's all correct. So in case somebody thinks that I'm one guy who has an opinion that's different to everyone else's, my opinion is backed by science.
Very true, very true. We would be honored to do that with you, Dr. Chris.
Thank you.
And please consider my request. We would be very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. That's very rare. Most people don't care about facts or helping.
No, and absolutely unpaid. We will not even ask a penny from you.
Thank you.
Or from anybody else. It would be very voluntarily done.
Terrific, thanks.
Yeah, great. So, as I hail from India, and in countries like India, sustainability is closely connected to affordability with livelihoods and development. So, how can growing nations create environmentally responsible systems while still supporting the economic progress and the accessibility for people?
Yeah. Well, the good news is we do have examples, right? We have countries where everything works. So it's not like it's a mystery. We don't know. It's not like there is great question marks. We know we have models to follow. Some countries are further ahead and some are further behind. If you look at plastic, if you see litter, let's say, and you think, well, let's just get rid of plastic and that will solve litter. That's what people think. That's kind of naive. What happens when you replace plastic is that 9 times out of 10, you increase impact. That's according to hundreds of life cycle studies. 9 times out of 10, you can replace plastic, but you will make things worse. And it actually means, on average, 4 times more waste. That means a lot more litter. 3 times more greenhouse gas, and using twice as much fossil fuel, because other materials require a lot more energy and fossil fuel to make. So that's a mistake. It's kind of a knee-jerk reaction, right? I see litter, let's ban whatever it is. That turns out to be a terrible mistake. You mentioned finances, and that's important because as well as increasing waste and greenhouse gas and fossil fuel use, replacing plastic massively increases cost as well. So we have an unfortunate situation where rich nations in the United States and Canada and the EU are trying to ban the lowest impact, cheapest solution, and that is discriminating against poor countries. They're trying to force their Western rich country laws and ideals onto countries where it just doesn't make sense. Plastic is the cheapest, greenest solution. Why should we take that away from people in India when it's the best choice? People say, well, we used to put, my mother lives in the Gambia, right, where you can buy 1 spoon of peanut butter at a time because that's all they can afford. So people forget, people in the Western world are forgetting how it is to live in a poor country or a developing country, and that people need affordable, low-impact solutions. In the rich world, we're spending extra to buy things which are worse for the environment, and you should be free to do that too, but you shouldn't force your morals on somebody else and your ideals on somebody else. You should follow the science.
True, very true. Very
Let me give you one
important.
example, sorry too, but if you look at cost versus impact, the worst thing in the world for the environment is gold. And I know that people in India appreciate gold more than most, and I do too, but it's incredibly bad for the environment to make it. You need to create 25,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide to make 1 kilogram of gold.
Oh, is it? I didn't know this.
Yes, 25,000. And what else do we know about gold? It's incredibly expensive because it takes so much energy and CO2 to make it, and you have to mine so much to get a little bit of gold.
Little
On the
bit
other,
of
and
gold.
then platinum is on that scale, and then as we go cheaper, silver needs less CO2 and it costs less. And it's almost a straight line. And at the very bottom of that line, we find paper and plastic. They're the cheapest, lowest impact materials that need 1 or 2 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of paper or plastic. And they're very, very cheap. And because they're so cheap, people drop it on the floor. People don't drop gold on the floor. I'd love to walk down the street and find, ounces of gold on the floor, but it's never happened. I've never seen any plastic money on the floor. They make plastic banknotes, right? I've never seen one. I've never seen a credit card on the floor. It's a small piece of plastic, but because it has a value, we don't drop it. And that's the fundamental problem. The problem is not single use. The problem is that our materials, some of them, are so cheap and so green that we don't mind dropping them on the floor. And that's why deposits are the answer. As soon as you put a value on that thing, people don't drop it anymore. So we have solutions to litter. It's education, waste pickers, deposits, and fines. That's what's proven to work, not banning the greenest option.
Absolutely right. It's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener, Dr. Chris.
Yeah.
Very well said, very ethical and very, a grounded approach, what you just put across to the audiences through your rhetoric or the way you are speaking. It's clearly understood that how complex topics, come across people and how they need to address the reality in the society, or to save the planet for that matter from plastics. Great.
The funny
But so
thing is,
much-
myself, I don't choose plastic. I like a glass. I've got a glass right here, right? It feels nicer in my hand. This is made of wool, not polyester, right? So I'm not telling people to choose plastic. I'm telling people just start with the facts and then make your own choices depending on what you prefer.
People like you who can put across the facts, the true facts, the honest facts, that is very important.
Thank you. Well, you're one
So
of
with-
about 2% of people who want facts. The rest of them don't.
Great. So with so much misinformation which is spreading online today, especially among younger audiences, how can scientists and educators complex topics easier for the people to understand and to make it more trustworthy?
Yes. Well, the way I approach it is this. So every study, I quote it verbatim. That means I literally copy and paste the words of the author to avoid spin, right? Because you can read a study and then put your own interpretation on it. By taking the exact words, if you look at my book, it's full of quotes directly from each study, then you cite the study, then you give a link to the study, and then you have other scientists check it. Of course, that's a lot of work, and nobody wants to do it, which is why I'm the only one who was stupid enough to read 6,000 studies. But on social media, I could go on LinkedIn right now, and to my 25,000 followers, I could say, we have a spoonful of plastic in our brains. That's a big thing that's been going around. It's complete nonsense, but it goes around social media. And one of the problems we have is that there are organizations with a lot of funds. They're paid by their members to show the truth, but they're not doing it. So most of the plastic industry associations, there's one called the Plastic Industry Association. There's the Society of Plastic Engineers. There's the American Chemical Society, the British Plastics Federation. These organizations are doing nothing or almost nothing, despite the fact that they have millions and millions of dollars from their members to do this, and they're not doing it. They're afraid of offending people. They're afraid of looking bad. They're afraid of making enemies. But it's their job to show the truth, not to defend plastic, but to put the science out there so people can see it. So this is a big frustration for me, that the people who have been funded to do this haven't done their job. And then they come to me and they literally write to me all the time and ask me for the science. I'm like, hang on, you've got $1 million to know this. What did you do with it? Did you go on a yacht and smoke a cigar? What's happening to this money? So I'm really hoping that, I mean, they've ignored it for 5 years, and now we have a lot of legal cases going on in India. There's people petitioning the High Court of India in Kerala and other places to do things, to take actions that make no sense whatsoever, all because the plastic and the chemical associations didn't do their job.
It's a very sad scenario.
Yeah.
And hence the backlog of cases, which is just piling up day by day. When I want to talk about Indian judiciary.
Yes, I've seen the petitions in India. The funny thing is, you see that some retired person who's not even a scientist writes to the High Court of India and says you need to take action immediately. Like nobody's checking this. There's an emergency. I mean, really? A retired guy who's not a scientist thinks that he has an opinion. This is the crazy world we live in.
That is how it works in India. I completely relate with what you're saying. Somebody who is a retired judge and some company goes to the retired judge for an opinion, which is basically put across to the highest judiciary, and that is how they consider that, okay, this case can be allowed, or this case can be again challenged or maybe upheld or something like that.
Yeah.
And the companies, big companies who are into renewable energy sector or into environmental specialist also, they go for an opinion from a retired High Court judge or a Supreme Court judge, and that is it. They are happy when they get their favorable opinions from them.
Mm-hmm. I know some competing industries are doing it too. It's the glass industry, the metal industry, the paper industry. Some of it's being pushed by them, I've heard from some lawyers that I know. They say that they've seen evidence that some of it's coming from competing industries, which is understandable, but it doesn't make it ethical.
Lastly, what message or advice would you like to give to the young innovators, to the young researchers and the change makers who want to break the barrier, who want to challenge the conventional thinking while still being responsible, ethical, and the groundness in the truth, what they are bringing it out?
Yes. Well, that's funny you should say that, because my first book is called The Innovation Abyss. It's also free. I only write a book when I'm extremely angry, because it's horrible to write a book. I don't know if you've written one, but it's just so much work that it's just, you need to be really angry or motivated to write one. So my first one is called Innovation Abyss. You can look it up. So if any innovator wants to understand how innovation really works, look at that, and it will tell you what to do. And one of the key things for innovators is that most people are not innovative. We like to be told everyone's the same and everyone can do everything. It's not true. If you look at a personality profile, you need a certain type of personality to be an innovator. And to solve world-class problems, you need an IQ of 120 or more, which means 90% of people can't do it. Fundamentally can't do it, no matter how much you teach them. So it's not that high an IQ. 120 is not that high. It's 10% of people. But you need to have that IQ and to have a high trait openness in the big 5 personality profile. So that's what I would do. If everyone should do a personality test, the big 5, that's the real one, not one of the other ones. It's the one psychologists use, and make sure that your personality is suited to what you want to do as a career, because you'll be more happy and you'll be more effective. I see so many people in America saying, go and be an entrepreneur, quit your job. I don't recommend that for most people because it doesn't suit them. So you need a special personality, you need to be smart, and you have to be driven. And if anybody wants to know about that, I'd read The Innovation Abyss. In terms of being ethical, well, that's a personal thing, isn't it? It's so much more profitable. It's so much more profitable not to be ethical, to be honest. So being ethical is expensive.
It is. It comes with its own cost.
Yes.
And what about being grounded in truth?
Is that something you can really tell people? You know what I mean? Does it really change them? I think you either know in your heart what's true and whether that matters to you, or you don't. I'm not sure I could convince somebody to follow the truth. I have a friend who's religious, and he said, "Where do you get your morals from if you don't believe in God?" I don't believe in God. And he said, and I said, "Well, it's obvious, right? You shouldn't harm other people. You should be honest. It's just obvious to a smart person." And he said, "Oh, he would." And I said, "Are you telling me that you would be out causing crime, creating havoc and causing crimes, committing crimes if you didn't believe in God?" He said, "Oh yes, I would be a much worse person." So some people just know that it's right, and other people need to believe in they're going to get punished for doing something wrong by a celestial being. But whatever it takes, try to be honest, because that's how we make progress. It's a better path to progress. If you start with things that are true, you can make logical decisions. If you start with things that aren't true, you make things worse. And that's what's happening now. We're banning and taxing. So there are 30 studies on plastic bags, for example. You can type in LCA, life cycle analysis bag. You'll find 30 studies. Every one ever done says the plastic bag has lowest impact. So what are we doing? Banning and taxing it. And then after they did the ban, the politicians ask for scientists to do a report to show how did the ban go. Every report comes back and says massive increase in impact, just like every life cycle analysis said would happen, and massive increase in plastic sales, because plastic bags for your groceries are very, very thin. When you can't use those for your trash cans anymore, you have to go to the grocery store and buy a trash can liner, which is 5 times more plastic. It's much thicker. So people are doing things based on nonsense that make things worse and cost more. So I hope they stop doing that.
True, absolutely right. I think I can feel it, I can sense it, that how beautiful it is coming out from your own, your self-introspection, your work, and how grounded you are in your approach, and how live you are for all the things what you take into consideration and you want to work towards it. It's beautifully, how the way you have crafted everything around, Dr. Chris. It's wonderful speaking with you. Any, final key takeaways, and what message do you have for Richa Cares Foundation, the kind of work what we are doing? And we would be really happy and honored to, consider you as a mentor in our leadership team as well.
Thank you.
So something on that, Dr. Chris.
I think the two things we haven't covered that people talk about all the time are the oceans. And they think that there's a floating island the size of Texas, and that's just not true. It's not there. There's never been a picture of it. It doesn't show up on a satellite. Even the guy who discovered it says that you can swim through it. You don't even know, because the amount of plastic is so low. So people need to know that that's not true. There's a whole PhD thesis by Kim DeWolf on how that myth came to be in the modern mind. And the other one is microplastics. Everyone's worried about plastic dust. So I would just say that plastic is 0.001% of dust that we consume, and it's non-toxic. We have 50 years of studies, 2,000 studies. So people are worried about it, like the monster under the bed, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the dark, because the public think we don't have science. This is something new, but we have 50 years of studies, 2,000 of them, and we have the answer to every question, and there's just no threat. The FSSAI has looked at it, the FDA, the EFSA in Europe, all of these organizations have checked it, scientists around the world have checked it, and there's no problem. So, and there's evidence for that at the plasticresearchcouncil.com, if anyone wants to look at the science.
Great. How do you think Richa Cares Foundation can work and progress towards this particular aspect of Plastic Research Council, what you are heading, and how can RCF and Dr. Chris organization can work together and collaborate? Definitely you are on our board of leadership team. That is something I would like to propose and would be very happy to take it forward. But how do you think RCF and Plastic Research Council can work towards the betterment and the kind of work what you're doing, Dr. Chris? And if something which is required from the government or some project what we can work together with the universities, or you may just suggest the framework or an outline towards.
Well, I think you'll automatically make good decisions because they will be evidence-based. So I think that the work you do will automatically be the right work and make progress because you care about facts. And so that part is easy. The place where you might be able to help me is, for example, there's many NGOs, and there's even government organizations. I think you mentioned United Nations at one point.
Yeah.
So the United Nations at the moment are proposing things that make no sense whatsoever. And I can't quite work out why they're doing it. So they've had 6 meetings. They've flown people around the world for 6 meetings called INC, INC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, INC 5.2, and to talk about an ocean plastic emergency. That's what these meetings are about. If you look at the ocean plastic, the amount of plastic going into the ocean is 1 American football field, 1 American football stadium full of plastic per year. The amount of American football stadiums that would fit in the ocean is 1 trillion. That is 1,000,000,000,000,000,000.
Oh my God.
12 zeros. So there is no ocean plastic emergency. And the UNEP have flown people around, and the damage that they have done through these 6 meetings is equivalent to 1 billion PET bottles. They have increased impact by 1 billion PET bottles to talk about an emergency that doesn't exist. And here's the sad part. The UNEP treaties are based around the idea of litter. They're worried about consumer items. If you look at what's actually in the ocean, like bags, bottles, and straws together, it's 0.03% of everything that's in the gyre is bags, bottles, and straws. That's what these meetings are about. 85% is fishing nets. 85%, they're trapping fish, they're killing whales and turtles, they're actually doing harm. And UNEP has specifically said, no, we're going to ignore the fishing nets, not interested in the 85% that causes harm. We only want to talk, we want to spend $1 billion of PET equivalent impact on the world to fly people around, to go on holiday to Korea and Canada and Ottawa and so forth, to talk about 0.03% and ignore the 85% that does harm. That is just, it's almost criminally incompetent. And so I don't understand whether they really are criminally incompetent and they have some other agenda, or whether they just don't have the facts. So I'm hoping maybe someone like you, if you have a relationship, can sit down with somebody and talk to them and say, look, here's the evidence, please have a look, and see what they say.
Certainly, Dr. Chris. So we are in touch with the resident coordinator in India,
Great.
and certainly I will, touch base with you, Dr. Chris, and let's propose something which I will definitely in my team, and I will reach out to you. I'll touch base with you again, Dr. Chris, on this particular topic, and then let's collaboratively work together, and let's try to make the world or a planet a better place.
Yes, we have solutions that work. We just need to show them to people. So thank you for helping. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Dr. Chris. Thank you so much. And namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.